work, making sure that the attendees at the roundtable know that they are not able to freely promote oil and gas as if it was a panacea, as if they can continue against the dictates of the International Energy Agency, which in May 2021 said we cannot have any new oil and gas production. We cannot do it and even hope to maintain global warming below 1.5 degrees centigrade. But we must stop. We have used up our carbon budget. These people are pretending that they have a solution. They're pretending that carbon capture and storage will solve the carbon emission problem. We know that this is not true. Indi and John have changed the doors here. It may take some time to remove them. Indi gave a fabulous speech. So did Leena, who is here glued to the window with Rebel Mary. As you can see, staff are trying to put the blinds down to reduce the vision of the inside of the conference. Some inventive solutions. As usual, Extinction Rebellion is well organised here with our marshals, our police liaison staff, our musicians, our flags and banners.
CCS in the back of mine. Decarbonise. CCS in the back of mine. Decarbonise. CCS in the back of mine. Decarbonise. Decarbonise. CCS in the back of mine. Decarbonise. CCS in the back of mine. CCS in the back of mine. Decarbonise. 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 CCS in the back of mine. Keep it in the ground. 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 Keep it in the ground.
I've been talking with attendees at the round table this morning over a delicious breakfast and finding out what's in it for them. So many stories, so many clever, intelligent, well-trained people. Facing their careers, facing their happiness on the oil and gas industry, which will no doubt leave them in the lurch when they're no longer required, when those industries have drained the last drop of profit that they can from these industries that are wrecking the planet. Ordinary people understand that they are not the focus, that when it comes to things like the war in Ukraine, profit is there to be made by the scarcity of resources. These companies are gouging profit in this situation of misery for all. We see that the grain supplies in Ukraine are restricted, that people in the Horn of Africa are in desperate need, struggling for food, children dying every day. And these companies do not care at all. All they are doing is just draining the last drop of profit, claiming that carbon capture and storage will solve the problem. We know that it will only, if that, manage some of the Scope 1 and 2 emissions. It will not handle the Scope 3 emissions. They say they will on-sell clean gas, for example, from Australia to Asia via a massive pipeline that's being built from Darwin. Even though that undersea drilling has been restricted by a court case, they are assuming that they will appeal the court case and go on and continue to make profit from this, putting the peoples that they sell it to in thrall for the supplies of oil and gas. Police officers have now arrived.
There is a case.
Which side are you on? Indeed. It is so tragic to see the effort and care with which an event like this has been put together and the misplaced dedication to the industry that people show. Here we have media people, lawyers, technicians, people who make up the contracts for this oil and gas industry. It has been so important to South Australia and to Australia as a whole, but with all this effort and intelligence, and South Australia being the key renewables location in the world, not just in Australia, in the world, surely we can turn this around. People want to be hopeful. They know their future is at risk. They know that their children are facing an uncertain future. Rebel Indi gave a heartfelt speech where he mentioned that he and so many of his friends under 30 are saying, can we have children? We are so afraid. We will not put them at risk. Nevertheless, some of them are going ahead and building their families, but in great trepidation and great sadness, in daily fear of what will happen to their young families. Here we are in one of the wealthiest countries of the world, and the situation is increasingly dire. Protest continues. Media is here to film. This has been a successful disruption of the South Australian Roundtable for oil and gas projects. The name says it all. It doesn't even pretend to be about transition. It's actually for oil and gas projects. The very thing that the International Energy Agency says we must have no more of. Rebel here, you see here. The protest at the National Whitehall continues. Rebels are persisting. Some of the rebels have been disconnected from their gluing on and chaining on. Drumming continues, as you can no doubt hear. Rebels have definitely here no fossil fuels now, ending that. We've had here a representation of key business interests in South Australia, and it is a tragedy that our state is so closely tied to the oil and gas industry. The Premier's brother used to work for Beach Energy, a major South Australian company and has transitioned to the government relations representative for Santos, South Australia's most powerful and wealthy company. They have renewable energy projects as part of their mix, but they are still focusing on oil and gas. They are mining and drilling in the Barossa Basin, not to be confused with that other wonderful South Australian liquid in the Barossa Valley. The Barossa Basin is north of Darwin and is an oil basin. Santos is determined to drill out this oil and ship it principally to Asia. Even if we were just thinking about energy prices in Australia, we should be outraged by this, that overseas profits are being favoured above the needs of Australians for a company that pays very little tax in our country. But if we were thinking more globally, we would be helping people in other countries to be independent, to have an independent source of energy, so that they would not be beholden to energy companies across the world, but they would still have good renewable technology. And we could help them with that, because South Australia leads the world in renewable energy, in battery storage, in installations of wind and solar. And so often we export our solar power to other states here. We could be exporting that technology and help to other countries. Rebel John is here, chained on to the handles of the doors of the National Wine Centre. And although it's a benign day, rebels are no doubt enjoying the sunshine, it is a tiny haven of peace in the current chaos of the world, with floods, fires across the world, floods in our eastern states here, with starvation in Africa and serious disruptions in South America. Glaciers continuing to melt in the Himalayas and in the Andes. And as you know, the melting of glaciers in the Himalayas has caused serious flooding in Pakistan, so vulnerable to that mountainous area and all the rivers that flow from it. A third of Pakistan has been underwater, causing great distress and serious disruption and death and disease to the people of Pakistan. Why should we, as privileged people in a wealthy nation, ignore the distress of the rest of the world? We can't, because that distress will come to us. Crop failures will come sooner than we can know. Our high fuel prices are a reflection of fuel shortages across the world. Our former government resisted the introduction of electric vehicles. And here we are in a state that's an expert in producing vehicles. We could be helping our citizens already with that technology. But delay and denial has been a tragic impact, not on us, but on the rest of the world too. Ordinary people across the state are recognising that we are in difficulty. Although the media organisations are powerful and so much by the energy companies that their messages are war. Ordinary people are realising that there is so much alternative media, so much alternative information based on the science. The science rebellion movement is linked to Extinction Rebellion. And scientists across the world, currently in Germany, a shout out to those people there, are protesting at conferences, protesting about the lack of respect paid to science. It's sad to know that so much human energy, as opposed to fuel energy, and expertise is being devoted to continuing to promote oil and gas. It's a very complicated process to get fossil fuels out of the ground and into a situation where they can actually be used as fuel. We know that. Rebels here are using their own human energy to continue this process, making it clear that we cannot continue to be polite, to be compliant.
Extinction, rebellion, South Australia, non-violent, civil disobedience, direct action, protesting, join the rebellion. Many roles.
It is true. Our rebel here is pointing out that there are many roles to play in Extinction Rebellion. Of course, we do take direct action. We do disrupt. Along the way, we have creative arms of the organisation that try to bring the message across in many different ways. We research the ideas and problems behind the energy crisis. We listen to the science. There is so much to do, so many aspects
You're amazing. Oh my God.
to be aware of. We will continue this action over the next few months. We will be back to do more.
I think we're all just about extinct.
We need
You're awesome, Leena.
We need to push back. We need to remove the social license from energy companies. We need to stop them sponsoring events like the Tour Down Under. Fancy a fossil fuel industry organisation sponsoring a bicycle race. It is laughable. In fact, the amount of sponsorship is not very much compared with the massive profits of that company. Please think about what you are going to do about the climate crisis. And it's not down to you as an individual. Don't be fooled. Don't think that you have to go to a lot of effort individually. It's hard to avoid petrochemicals in your life because they're everywhere. Yeah, every time you use a plastic bag, yeah, try and avoid it, but don't be led into feeling guilty. It's not your responsibility. It is your responsibility to think about it and to speak out, but it's not your responsibility to clean up the awful act of the fossil fuel companies. It is not your responsibility. My heart goes out to the many people who spend a lot of time recycling rubbish, picking up papers, doing all the clean-up things that they can do. You are not the problem. You are suffering from this. And the fossil fuel industry can do so much better. They'd like you to think that it's your fault, but it's not. Thank you for being here today. please consider joining us in our future actions. Please find a way to talk about with your friends. Just check what each of them thinks about the climate crisis. Have a talk. See if you can find a way to say, I don't know what the solution is. Regards, scientists, you can listen to them. I don't know what the solution is, but I know that it's a problem. Take that step of knowing that it is a problem. And then, if you're worried, if you're concerned, find other people, join with others, take courage from the fact that we can stand up to the fossil fuel industry. And today has been a great example. We have moved this roundtable discussion. We have disrupted it, and we have made it clear that we will not continue to commit this kind of bias, this kind of celebration of a dying industry and what could be a dying planet.
Unlocking the potential. How can our government declare a climate emergency and sit there and give the keynote address for unlocking the potential of oil and gas in this state? Science says we have to stop all new oil and gas. The minister has said his discussion, I suppose, today was to talk to the oil and gas industry about unlocking the future of renewable energy. Rather talking about SA's plans in particular to decarbonise. What do you have to say to that? Do you think this is the case? That's not what their own agenda is talking about. They're talking about targets around 2050. 2050 is too late. I'm a parent, I've got little kids. You're thinking about their future. What are they going to do when half of Australia is underwater and the other half is earth? Like, they're not just going to be able to walk down to the shop and get food. I have to act now. We have to act now, and I am so thankful that other people who care as deeply as me are willing to put their views aside to say that. To say so, again, having spoke with the minister, so I suppose they're saying they were willing to have the opening address today, but then were hopeful continuing devastation will be huge, but we can bring it back into a way that my kids and people in Pakistan's kids, they actually have a hope of a future if we take action now.
There has been over the past few days a couple of arrests made. Is that off-putting in any way, or is that, considering nothing compared to the alternative?
Yeah. We're not doing this because, we woke up this morning, like one of the activists who came on this morning is a fellow parent of little kids. We've taken the day off work to be here today, taken other days off work this week. I'm not doing this because that's how I want to use my annual leave. I'm doing this because I don't see a future without a change in the conversation. And at the moment, the conversation is not fast enough. It's not strong enough to really make a change. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they put it on their shoulders. It's like resting on their shoulders.
Rebels Mary and Leena are still glued on. Rebel John is still chained on inside the National Wine Centre. We understand
Oh, Mary's already opened them up for you again.
the rebels are being charged.
Oh, Mary.
We don't know what the charge will be.
Yeah, they're trying to isolate.
And that the manager of the National Wine Centre has been called by the police.
You guys look
As you can see, media people are in attendance.
Be careful, you're looking like North Korea.
Meanwhile, rebels are on duty,
Oh God.
maintaining the presence of Extinction Rebellion here at the National Wine Centre. We believe that the Roundtable discussions, which is a series of speeches, have been moved upstairs or to a different part of the wine centre, and that those
You don't need any.
presentations are continuing to promote oil and gas as a solution to our energy problems. People I talked to at the round table were convinced that the world has an energy problem, but they characterise it as a problem of volume. There not being enough energy. And their argument is that more oil and gas is needed. Only a few days ago, our Minister for Mines and Energy, Mr. Koutsantonis, spoke of the need to expand gas as a transition fuel, as a clean transition fuel that can take us forward. How misguided is this? People within the oil and gas industry know about the heavy emissions emitted in the form of carbon dioxide and methane, both when gas is extracted
Climate heroes!
and when gas is burnt as a fuel. They say that they can use carbon capture and storage to extract those emissions while they are being taken out of the ground. But they have not got a solution for the emissions that occur when that gas is burnt. Rebel Peter is handling our media questions.
Just come go the nut further across to your nut right.
While in the background, rebels continue to maintain a presence
Yeah, I'm recording.
at this beautiful National Wine Centre.
We're ready, we're rolling.
Say Pater, sorry, we'll just get you to say your first and last name. So it's Pater, Page, P-E-T-A. Great.
Peter, tell us, what's your key message here today?
We can't have a government who has declared a climate emergency be hosting a roundtable of the future of oil and gas in this state. You know, their own website says they're talking about unlocking unconventional gas, not only disrupting our climate, but potentially affecting our water sources. This industry needs to stop now.
This is your fourth activists' action this week. Do you think it's the right way to go about getting your message across?
Every single one of the people inside, outside, has called their local member, has written letters, has signed petitions, and we are still hurtling towards a climate crisis. We're already seeing the climate crisis right now. Half of our country is underwater. We're already facing food shortages across the globe. You know, in just a couple of summers, most likely we'll be on fire again. The response to the crisis is not enough.
The Minister has told the media that today was about telling fossil fuel bodies that we're transitioning away from fossil fuels, and that today's action has only hindered his message. Do you agree with that?
Their own poster says unlocking the potential for oil and gas in the state. Unlocking the potential doesn't say a transition. That says we're going to keep making money until somebody tells us we can't anymore. And so we're here to tell them they can't anymore.
Oh, the minister said that part of his speech was focused on hydrogen. Do you think that's a positive thing? Given that hydrogen power is...
We absolutely need green hydrogen, but we need to be careful. We need to really listen to the science about where to do it, how to do it well. I do think hydrogen is part of our future energy mix, but what they're talking about is using oil and gas to keep extracting it. We have to stop. The science is absolutely 100% clear. No new oil, no new gas.
If the Minister invited you to sit down and have a pragmatic discussion about this, would you and your fellow lobbyists be open to that?
Absolutely, of course we would. And lots of, I imagine that lots of the people here have already done that, have sat down, but the hypocrisy of declaring a climate crisis, declaring a climate emergency as a state, and doing this, hosting a conference that talks about how we can further this here. These two things don't add up. They're saying one thing to us and they're saying another to the industry. What we want is honest, frank conversations across community.
Good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll take that last grab.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time.
No worries.
I appreciate it.
All right. I think they're being unhappy if you want to go.
Yay.
Oh my God, how do you
So that lovely speech interview by Peter laid out the hypocrisy of the government. We're popping back to the window here to see what's happening with our rebels who are glued on. As you can see, they use quite a small amount of glue on a very non-porous surface just to immobilise themselves. But it's very easy to remove. Just takes the right solvent. It is uncomfortable for the rebels, but they're prepared to endure this minor discomfort to make the strong point. It was interesting that our TV interviewers there made the point that this might not be the only way to protest. The people here are, in some degree, extremely distressed, and they will use the word desperate. All of them have been working in environmental, legal, social movements for many, many years. They have held discussion groups, they have written letters, they have organised petitions, they have organised marches and rallies. They are in a state of desperation where they feel that they must take very, very strong action. We need to get people actually irritated, actually annoyed. We need to show that people are prepared to risk going to jail, to risk discomfort, to risk abuse from people. When other people see that their friends, their relatives, their colleagues are willing to take risks, they understand the seriousness of it. Many of the people involved in Extinction Rebellion are professionals in all sorts of areas, both young and old. Lawyers, medical people, social workers, midwives. They're able to understand the technical details. They listen to science. They aren't swayed by popular media articles. The police are talking with Rebel John.
Yeah, and you can't see and you can't tell what's going on. It's still on. Oh my God.
Who's chained to the handles of the door.
There's so much you can say, isn't there?
He's probably not even
Rebel Ear is being removed from her chains on the window. Her support team is there. It's difficult to see. It's difficult to see because the blinds have been drawn.
Oh, Louis providing action support.
Our action support team is going to some effort to make sure that our rebel inside feels supported.
Here, show her that it's here.
What's that?
Crack. There's a crack here.
Here, can you pull your blind up? The thing's on the right hand side.
Yeah.
So now we see Rebel Ear still chained on.
Behind you. It's behind you. Look, the police.
Hello.
Thanks. Police.
Nice.
Oh. Ia is a medical professional and she's been involved in the climate movement for a considerable number of years. She's seen the health impacts, she's looked at them across the world, and we know that these impacts are first degree, if you like, where people might be damaged by, say, a fire or a flood, but also second degree.
Nice.
When these emergencies happen, when floods put a third
Now
of
we can see
Pakistan
you're all right.
underwater,
Yeah.
when fires devastate crops, when a fuel shortage means that Ukraine cannot export its grain, people are in distress, have disease, have famine. People like Ia, as a medical profession, know that these impacts continue. They know the impacts of a flood taking out a sewage system so that infectious diseases are rife through a community. They know that the poor, the already compromised health-wise, and the young and old suffer the most. They can't run away. They can't fight the problems. They have to sit and suffer. Thank you, Ia, for your support of this action. We hope that you had a pleasant breakfast just before the action started, a minor compensation for the discomfort you're feeling now. We'll go back to see what's happening with the other rebels in this beautiful courtyard on this spring day where the climate crisis seems far away from the drought in the Horn of Africa, far away from the devastation in the Ukraine, which would be so much quicker to finish if the customers of Russian oil were not customers, were independent, had their own independent sources of energy. We all have a sun that shines down on us. We all have wind. And we use these in South Australia to create abundant renewable energy. Renewable energy is the cheapest source. But our prices for energy in South Australia are still exorbitantly high because of the pricing structures in the Australian energy market. We know that if there was not pressure from the oil and gas industry, that the true price of renewable energy would find its level.
Yeah, they've got the different,
Please here, negotiating and on duty in the National Wine Centre. We know that many police officers support climate action and understand the difficulties. They understand the number of protests and peaceful non-violent actions that groups like Extinction Rebellion have mounted to get their point across. They know that efforts to turn around the Titanic of the oil and gas industry and its stranglehold on the South Australian government are at a point of desperation. They know how difficult it is.
Grannies and vegans.
It's good to know that more and more people are understanding the difficulty of the situation and know that there is something majorly wrong. Let's get a bit of a close-up here of John's chain. A fairly substantial industrial chain which he's got attached around his waist and around the handles of these doors here. John is a professional who spent many years campaigning for environmental issues. Has dedicated hundreds and thousands of hours of his own time outside of his work to push for environmental protection of many kinds. And he's worked so hard on this. Now, as a member of our community who understands the issues, he's made a decision to focus on climate as a problem. Because if we don't solve this climate emergency, no amount of, say, releasing a bilby into the wilderness will solve the problem. No amount of planting trees, picking up rubbish, cleaning a waterway will fix it. Good as these actions are, commendable and caring as these actions are, if we don't solve the climate emergency, people like John have realised that there is nothing we can do. We will see the end of a decent environment on Earth. Now, the police are coming in with their heavy equipment bolt cutters, their power-assisted bolt cutters.
Yeah, going down. That work for you, Rich? Yeah. Of course. Yes.
I would imagine that they've got quite serious batteries to operate these. The police are... The media people are doing their best to get a shot of the action.
Where's the police accountability? I think we'll probably be able to hear the impact.
Blanket up so we can't see what they're doing.
It is a security issue for police.
Is he getting strip searched?
Oh yeah. No. As you can hear, people are having a little bit of a joke about John's privacy, but it's the privacy of the police action that's important to the police, and that's perfectly reasonable.
What happens behind the blanket stays behind the blanket.
Okay, the acetone.
Looks for a Johnny's going on the acetone.
Maybe they have to
They're doing the acetone over there if you want to check it out.
or something.
Acetone now. Oh,
Now here,
Oh, they're going hard on it.
yeah. No,
they're squeezing in the acetone. As you know, probably acetone is merely nail polish remover. They have a special fluffy brush, and it comes off very easily, as you can see.
That the blanket, the reason for that is just because it's very equipment. It's privileged, so yeah.
Police officer here explaining the reason for the blanket.
We might have a chat to start
As you
with
can
that.
see, a very small smear of acetone left on the window. Now the police are focusing on Leena. Leena was the rebel who gave the speech today.
Another world is possible. Mary is unstoppable. Another world is possible.
Unstoppable. Another world is possible.
I reckon you're right, Sarah.
Still trying to get John.
Oh, the blanket's still up.
Oh, hope they haven't.
John is unstoppable.
Acetone is being
Another
poured in,
world is possible.
and that will result in a release very soon, with no damage to the window.
John is unstoppable. Another world is possible.
John's chain has now been bust by the police mega bolt cutters. Very quickly, Leena has now been removed. You can see her sign on her hand says "Bleed on fully." Leena is a dedicated auntie and does these actions thinking always of her nieces and nephews. Now we'll go down and see how Ia is going and if she is being unchained as well. The team here is supporting Ia.
Is unstoppable. Another world is possible. Go Ia! Woo! Love you, Ia! She's alright.
She has been removed. Fantastic. Oh, something over here. The media team. We'll just go down and see what's happening. I think that rebels are being taken away. In the beautiful botanic gardens here. We'll just go for a little walk through that lovely scenery with our symbolic grapevines by the National Wine Centre. Free tour of the botanic gardens here. We can see the police vehicles out in the car park, and our rebels will be taken almost certainly to the City Watch House. I believe that 5 rebels will have been arrested today and will be charged. We can't predict what decisions the police will make, of course. Here we are, still at the National Wine Centre, going out into the car park to see the rebels taken away to the City Watch House. Police vehicles are pulled up here, near the doorway. The Roundtable event continues inside the beautiful National Wine Centre, one of the pride locations of South Australia. Our support team is here with the rebels, keeping a record of all the events that occur. A large amount of planning and management goes in.
At the moment you're interfering with police, so you need to get off the road.
Here comes
You
Ian.
need to get off the road. Okay? At the moment you're standing on a roadway, you need to get off the road.
Oh, certainly, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Leena, Rebel Leena is being taken away. Number of police vehicles here.
Where did Mary go? I'll send all this to Chris.
Media people continuing. Police bringing out the chains that we used, probably part of the evidence for what occurred.
Despite the arrest today, the protesters have vowed there will be more demonstrations in the coming weeks.
We're still waiting to see some of the rebels escorted out of the building.
Despite today's action, the protesters have vowed this won't be the end of their demonstrations. More are expected in the coming weeks. Despite the action today and this week, the protesters have vowed there will be more demonstrations in the coming weeks.
Police continuing to do their job here. And rebels gathering to make sure that the team is supported. They've taken a big risk to be here this morning and step into their courage to make the point that South Australia cannot continue to promote oil and gas, cannot say that they are transitioning, but still have plans and projects to further extract oil and gas and say that gas is a transition fuel. These two things are incompatible. We know that if we do not keep the pressure on, if people do not say, you are not telling us the truth, we know that if people in the community do not speak up, then we will not be able to put sufficient pressure on the government to change. There is so much money to be made from oil and gas. It takes a serious investment to continue with this. So at this point we'll end this live stream here. Please stay tuned for further news.